Hello and welcome to Charch Chat. I'm Paul Charchian from LeagueSafe.com. Thanks for joining us here at Open Sports as we look back on Week 13 and some of the key fantasy developments that came out of Week 13's games. And let's take a look at some of the notable things in the eyebrow raisers, if you will. Well, that. Couple things. First, notice the weather started to play a factor in our games. And I want to recommend two things to you. One, obviously check the weather before kickoff. It's not hard to do. It's being covered increasingly on the pregame shows, which is nice. NFL Network does a really good job because they cut to people on the field at every single stadium. I really like the NFL Network pregame shows. My new favorite one for fantasy use, and I recommend it if you get it. Next is carry two kickers because of these issues. Ryan Lindell's been a great kicker this year, but if you saw this coming, you could have benched him and you could have avoided a couple of field goal attempts that hit the uprights and did not bounce the right way, and he ended up missing those, and you got to figure that weather played a big part in that, and Gostkowski missed an extra point. So carry two kickers, and also in the playoffs it's nice to have two kickers, because a lot of leagues will use bench points as a tiebreaker, and having those sure points that kickers give you is really handy, and some other leagues will have you designate one player as sort of your tiebreaker player, and you'd always make that your kicker again because you're going to get sure points from him. Let's go to some of the notable events from the weekend. First, Justin Fargas scored from the 1. We'd assumed that Darren McFadden was going to be that guy because Fargas had struggled in short yardage situations, and McFadden had gotten the 2 goal line touchdowns last week, and then as it turns out, not the case. One game does not a trend make, and they gave the goal line use to Fargas. I think Fargas is a better runner right now, seeing him both. McFadden's got some good things, and when healthy, we'll really see what he can do next year, but for right now, Fargas looks like the better runner of the two, and we're going to stick with that. Next, Steve Smith had no catches in the first half and then exploded in the second half, went over 100 yards. But of note, 3 different possible touchdown situations went against him. He got dragged down to the 1 once. Another time, he got down to the 1, was rolling on top of the defender and rolled into the end zone, and I thought it could have been a touchdown. Instead, he got called down at the 1. John Fox didn't challenge it, which is too bad, because I think they might have given the touchdown to him. And then one other situation in the first half, they threw to him on like 1st and goal from the 2, and he was open, the ball was coming his way, and the defender face masked him to stop him from catching the ball. And that's pretty serious, and obviously didn't catch the pass. That would have been a touchdown as well. So Steve Smith's having a really nice yardage year, but the touchdowns just aren't materializing for a variety of weird reasons like this. In Miami, Devon Bess looks like he could really be a contributor with Greg Camarillo out. He has stepped up, 6 catches, 84 yards, a really nice game this week. He made some tough catches too. I was really impressed with his play. Definitely recommend picking him up. I'll give you all of my waiver guys in the next installment for Open Sports, but you can bet that Devon Bess is going to be in it. Next, LaRon McClain, 15 carries at half, ended up with 25 carries. He shattered his previous carry record, and what's really interesting here is the running back by committee in Baltimore is breaking down and turning into just the LaRon McClain show. And so you can expect McClain going forward, we hope, to get more and more carries. And if they're going to settle on one guy, he's got a lot of value because Joe Flacco's moving this offense, and they're suddenly scoring a lot of points in Baltimore. And there's some real potential here for LaRon McClain, and it'll be fascinating to see if they go back to running back by committee or if the last 2 games are an increasing trend. He had 18 carries last week, then he had 25 on Sunday, so we'll see. LaRon McClain, somebody I'm watching very closely. A couple of notes from New Orleans first. Great to see Marcus Colson lead the team in receptions and yards. Still, Lance Moore seems to be the go-to guy, and he scored the touchdown. But also Deuce McAllister, I think just the run is over for McAllister, and it's been great, but it's Pierre Thomas's show now. They can't be sentimental about it. Pierre Thomas gives them their best chance to win, and they're going to keep using him. He had 11 carries. Deuce McAllister had 3, and Reggie Bush only had 3 as well. But we'll assume that's just they were trying to keep mileage off of his bad knee, and I think we'll see plenty more of Reggie Bush beginning next week. DeAndre Williams had the 4 one-yard touchdowns. What happened to Stewart? I mean, Stewart's supposed to be really built as a better goal line guy, but obviously they like Williams in that situation, and that's a bit of a change from what we had seen earlier in the season. Next, Peyton Manning erupting for 7 multiple touchdown passes in 7 of his previous 8 games before Cleveland. And coming into this game, Cleveland had allowed multiple touchdown passes in 4 of the last 5 games. And so, of course, Peyton Manning throws none and puts up just 125 yards. His lowest output in a meaningful game not counting like, week 17s when they've already wrapped up home field. His lowest output in a meaningful game since week 2 of 2005. So, head scratcher. I don't get it. Cleveland's secondary is not good, but well, who knows? It's the NFL, right? These weird things always seem to happen. Larry Johnson scored, showed little signs of life, and I've said this for a couple of weeks. I think they're going to keep using him. They're going to keep trying to showcase him for a possible offseason trade. Figure out if they really want to use him going forward. They used him in the Wildcat. So good to see him score. He's still running the ball reasonably well. Offensive line isn't great, but it's getting a little bit better. Peyton Hillis got every single carry for Denver. Unbelievable. Every single carry for Peyton Hillis. Hopefully that is a trend that will continue. Selvin Young could be back as early as next week. But Hillis is running well, and I believe he will be the goal line guy. So even when Selvin Young comes back, I think Selvin Young ends up being the Selvin Young of old, which means he's going to get 8-9 carries, and I don't think he'll be a big factor. I think Hillis will get more carries, and he'll get the goal line work. Willie Parker returned from injury, which is great, and the last time he came back from injury, they gave him all of the carries, and he probably got hurt again. This time, Willie Parker came back, and Weldon Moore got half the carries. So you got to figure that's going to continue. They're going to continue trying to keep Willie Parker fresh for the playoffs by giving a lot of rotation time to Weldon Moore. I think that's a trend, not a mirage, and that's bad news for Willie Parker's owners the rest of the way. Lastly, Oakland secondary still just darn tough. Shut down Dwayne Bowe. Mark Bradley didn't have a catch. Came into the game hurt but played and didn't catch a pass. Nnamdi Asomugha is just awesome, living up to his name. All right, there you go. That's some of the highlights and lowlights and different surprise tidbits from Week 13. Thanks for getting all the way here to the bitter end of this rather long Charch chat here at Open Sports. If you have any questions for our fantasy department, send your emails to fantasy@opensports.com.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on fantasy@opensports.com.